Hey, it's Mark Lynn here with your video thought for the day. All right, 2 Corinthians let's do it in four minutes. I think this may be Paul's most personal and emotional letter he ever wrote. The key verse that I'd give you to hold on to is 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, where Paul said that God said to Paul, and this is when Paul's really distraught, God said, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." And Paul, after hearing that message from God, finished the verse by saying, "Therefore, I'm going to boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so Christ's power may rest in me." Now, where does this come from? Let's look at it in 3 quick points. First, Paul is a wounded apostle in this letter. Unlike 1 Corinthians' confident tone, 2 Corinthians shows a very vulnerable Paul. His authority has been challenged by others. His heart has been broken. His body's even suffering. And Paul opens up about his struggles. He doesn't hide them. He catalogs his hardships. He talks about his beatings, the shipwreck, the sleepless nights, the constant danger. Yet, as he catalogs through these weaknesses, we see here true spiritual leadership, because Paul wasn't a polished prosperity preacher. He was just a broken vessel, but he carried a priceless treasure. And that's what he called, my second point, his ministry of reconciliation. See, at the heart of this letter is this message of reconciliation, reconciling. It's reconciling with God and reconciling with others. And Paul had been deeply hurt by rejection coming from the Corinthians. And so instead of just ignoring them or writing them off, Paul models the kind of forgiveness and restoration that we should be seeking to bring to others who have hurt us. And he calls us ambassadors of Christ, because after all, isn't that what Christ himself did? He found those who had hurt him and he sought them out to show them reconciliation, to show them love and forgiveness and restoration. That brings me to my third point from here, and that's the paradox of the Christian life. There's a great paradox of Christian living that Paul calls on. It's the idea that we find strength in weakness. We find life through death. We find glory through suffering. Paul says we carry around in our body the death of Jesus. Think about that. Life through death, glory through suffering. This isn't just theology, it's biography for Paul. Every hardship becomes a display of God's sustaining grace, and every weakness becomes a showcase for God's strength as he helps us walk through. So in practical application, as I bring this to a close, where are the areas in your life where you're trying to appear strong? What weaknesses are you hiding? Remember, God's not revealed in our competence. God's revealed in our dependence. So our struggles and our scars become channels for his grace to flow not just through us, but to flow to others. So let's seek God and model from Paul life of the vulnerable. It's why I've made this your video thought for today.